Steve Cook with Lifeonaire. I am coming back to you again with another session, and now we're going to be talking about marketing. And guys, I have sort of a little bit of a twist on the way that I like to do marketing, and it's going to be a little different than many of the other things that you have heard. In fact, it might be a lot different. And I want you to know that throughout all the things that I have done in the years, I've experienced almost all kinds of marketing. I've done just about everything that you hear people talking about today, and there's things that I like and there's things that I don't like. But here's the key: marketing is necessary. I shared with you earlier that finding deals is the lifeblood of your business. Without deals, you don't have a business. Well, the way that we get to find deals is, we've either got to be out there really digging them up, or we need to do marketing and getting those deals coming to us. The key is to do something. The problem that a lot of people have is they're just not doing anything. And if you're not doing anything, you're never going to find deals. I see that there's a lot of people who call themselves real estate investors, but there's only a small percentage of them that actually market. Not too many of them are out there putting themselves out there, or getting their phone ringing, or having people call them up, and they just sit back and they're waiting. The difference between just doing something and nothing is huge, because the majority of people are doing nothing. So you don't have to be the best marketer, you just have to do something in this business to beat out much of the competition. Obviously, the ones who are doing more and who are doing a really good job with it are going to get more than you will, but I just want you to understand that doing something makes a difference in this business. You can't be all things to all people, so don't feel like you have to buy everything or reach every single person. Find your niches and then do a good job of reaching those people, getting your name out in front of them so that you have an opportunity to be able to buy those houses. Again, any message is better than most of your competition, because a lot of your competition doesn't even have a message. Even the ones who might have a message, they don't pick up the phone when it rings. I know I'm guilty of that at times. I just don't want to buy a house, and my marketing is still working for me, and the phone is ringing, but I'm really not interested in buying anything. So I just let that stuff go to voicemail, and if the person appears to be motivated enough, I'll call them up. But if not, I just tend to let those go. I'm the kind of competitor that you want to have, because I'm not following through on all of them, but we're going to talk about that here shortly. Pick something, focus on it, and commit to it. Marketing is all about consistency, and it's sticking with it for quite a while. Too many people start their marketing, and if they don't produce results in 30 days, they give up on it. I will tell you that most marketing campaigns, you need to make a commitment to at least 4 to 6 months before you really start to see results. And I usually encourage people to make a year commitment to their marketing before they decide to give up on it. So before you even get started, don't say, I'll try it for a month, and then if it works out well, I'll keep on going. You're already going to be falling short if you're only committed to doing your marketing for a month. Marketing pays off after a long term of consistency. So I want to encourage you to have that mindset before you even get started. You need to follow through and make the most of your leads. I just shared with you that I don't always do that. Following through, making the most of them is something that is the way that you're going to get deals. If I needed deals, I would do a much better job of it. But I've shared with you many times already, I'm already taken care of. I don't need deals. The only things that I want are the really smoking deals, and I don't want to have to work too hard for them anymore. But I have years and years and years of stuff that has been built up, and reputation, that I get deals without even having to try. And I'm going to share with you how I got to this point and how you can get there too. But follow through, making the most of your leads. I'm going to also share with you one of the big things that's happening today, and it's follow up. Follow up with old leads. They're saying today that the guys who I know who are doing tons and tons of marketing, that 60 to 70% of their deals today are coming from follow-ups. Following up on old leads. It's not coming from new leads, but going back to stuff that is 4 months old, a year old, a year and a half old, and checking in with those people to see if they have sold their houses yet. But consistent follow-up on their old leads is what is generating the majority of their deals today. Those people are not picking up the phone and calling somebody new. They tried, it didn't work out, they just put something on the back burner. They're getting these deals now by following up. So I just shared with you a couple of my shortcomings when it comes to marketing, and I'm oftentimes criticized by people for not doing more. The reality of the situation is this: I don't have any official marketing campaigns going on right now, and it's because I don't need them. I really don't want my phone ringing with more. And that might sound crazy to you, and it sounds crazy to people who are just trying to get started, or they do want to build their business up. And I remember when I was doing 50 deals a year, and I'm trying to slow down. I was trying to get down to 20. And that sounds crazy to some people, but I'm not marketing, and I'm being criticized for not marketing, yet I'm still hitting 50 deals a year without doing any marketing. And I'm just trying to slow the machine down. And I wanted to get to those 20 deals a year, and I was having a hard time getting there. I shut off all my marketing trying to get there, but I was still doing more than that just because of all the things that I had put into place. And I want to just give you some insight into how all of that came together. I get more than what I need. I get all that I want. I don't want to have a big business. I want it to be simple. I want quality deals. So I'm not out there doing a whole lot of different marketing, but I have done it all. If you can think of it, I have done it. I have done bandit signs. I have sent out letters and postcards. I've put up billboards. I've had my websites. I've put in multiple ads in newspapers. I've worn t-shirts. I've had signs on my vehicles. I've passed out business cards. I put flyers out in neighborhoods. I've done all different kinds of things in order to be able to get deals. And I'll tell you, every single thing that I have just mentioned to you works. Now, I've had one exception. Of all the things that I just mentioned to you, the one thing that never produced a deal for me was a billboard. And I know that they're popular. I know other people supposedly get deals from them. I never did get one. And I made a one-year commitment to having billboards out, and it never paid off. But outside of that, everything else that I have ever done has produced deals. And I've gotten deals from them. Some things are more effective than others, but the bottom line is you do enough of anything, it's eventually going to work. And you need to understand that about marketing. Even bad marketing done enough will produce. The whole idea is get enough of it out there and tweak it and make it better, and it will eventually produce more and more for you. Today, I really don't do any of this stuff, but all of it does work. So I still am of the mindset that the old school marketing is the way to go. There are many people today who are getting much more sophisticated with their marketing, and old school marketing has been abandoned by so many of these people. People have stopped putting ads in the newspaper. I am telling my students, get ads in the paper again. They've gone to paying for Google AdWords, and they're spending thousands of dollars every month trying to get their phone ring. And for $50 a month, they can get an ad in the penny saver. And they're realizing that that ad in the penny saver is producing deals. Whereas they're spending, the guys who are doing so much of it online and doing mailings and doing all kinds of stuff, they're spending somewhere between $8,000 and $11,000 per deal to get it based off of the marketing expenses. The $50 ad in the newspaper, you don't have to do anything to it. You just pay the $50, it sits in the newspaper, the phone rings, and if you don't get a deal in a year and it takes you 2 years to get a deal, it's still much cheaper than the other sources. I believe in some of those old things still. They still work. At the end of the day, who is still reading the paper? Most of the time, it's not the younger person because they're online, they're using social media, they've got their smartphones, they don't read newspapers anymore. But older people are still reading the newspapers. And that's some of the best deals that we get, is when we're finding somebody who now they're tired, they've had a rental property now for 30 years, they're ready to sell it, or whatever it might be. But those are the people who are still reading the papers. I still believe in bandit signs. Bandit signs have always been one of the most effective ways of getting the phone ringing. But a lot of people have abandoned them, for not just for going to other things, but I understand that municipalities are cracking down. But there are places that you are allowed to put bandit signs. I'm not an advocate of putting them out illegally, but finding all the legal places that you can put them out. You're allowed to put them on your own properties. You can go to your friends and put bandit signs out in front of their properties with their permission. If you know business owners who have high traffic locations, you can put your bandit signs on their properties. And as long as you have their permission, put the signs where you can legally put them and get them out there. The bottom line is, marketing of all kinds is all working today. Some of it has been getting very expensive. It's becoming very sophisticated. I'm not of that mindset. I believe that if you spend thousands and thousands of dollars a month on marketing, it's going to force you to try to do more deals just to try to cover your marketing expenses. And you might do deals that you wouldn't otherwise do. I like free marketing or cheap marketing. I like to keep my expenses down as much as I can. So today, I don't have any mailings, I don't have any signs, no business cards, no TV, no radio, none of that. Instead, I have a plan that works for me, and I'm going to share it with you what that plan is. The success that I have today is not an accident. I have thought this through. I know exactly what I'm doing. A lot of people think that I don't do anything, but there's really a science to what I do, and this is the most effective thing. It's worked very well for me. And other investors who have tried it, this works very well for them also. I want you to go ahead and take a look at this graphic right here. At the bottom of this pyramid, when I first got started in the business, I really just had to hit the streets and do a lot of work. I didn't have much money, but I did have time. And so I got out there and I just was grinding it. I was working really hard, trying to dig up deals. This cost me hardly any money. I just had to get on out there and just start looking for things. I looked for every free way that I could get in front of people to let them know that I bought houses. But more importantly, I was going to the free sources. I was going to the MLS. It didn't cost any money to look at houses that were listed. So I didn't have money to spend, so I went to all the places that were free where I could find properties. HUD properties, auctions, MLS. I would go to those different places to find properties and then do other cheap forms of marketing or anything like making flyers and hanging flyers up. But I did whatever I could when I didn't have much money. Then, as I started making some money, I started spending it. And I started, as I say that, in the beginning, I went to the streets, but then when I started spending money, I was bringing the streets to me. I was trying to get my phone ringing by putting ads in the paper and doing all other kinds of marketing and mailings that would get people calling me up, getting my billboards out, getting literally radio ads and television commercials and doing things like that to get my phone ringing. So I'm bringing the streets to me. I'm investing less time into finding the deal myself, but I am spending more money. So the trade-off is money or time. Well, finally, I got to a point where I call it breeding bird dogs. And I want to go ahead and I want to explain that to you. This is where I really transitioned my whole business. Instead of going out there and digging those deals up or spending a lot of money on marketing, the one thing that I came to realize is there are tons of people out there who want to be real estate investors. And there's many people out there who are going through doing the same things that I'm doing. They're putting ads in the paper. They're putting out bandit signs. They are knocking on doors. They're sending out letters. They're doing all different kinds of marketing. They're pursuing stuff on the MLS and making offers. And they're all doing this, but they don't really know much of what they were doing. And so what I decided to do was I was going to come alongside of all of these people and help them to do a better job with that. I knew that most of them didn't want to buy those properties when they found them in the first place. What they wanted to do was wholesale them. So I basically started teaching all of these different people how to do a better job at finding deals so that they could bring them to me. I call it breeding bird dogs. Instead of just hoping that somebody knew what they were doing, I trained them to do a better job at it and started helping them to find deals. Breeding bird dogs is a thing that has treated me very, very well. Now I'm going to share one little tip here with you that hopefully you'll get this. You'll understand clearly what it was that was taking place here. First of all, I was happy to help people, but where are there a whole bunch of real estate investors? At real estate investor meetings. And most of these meetings, you have an opportunity to get on up and talk about what it is you do or share something or do a quick pitch, maybe 30 seconds or something, and talk about your business or share what it is you're looking for or what it is you have. And I would go on up at those meetings and I would just simply say, hello, my name is Steve Cook. I am looking to purchase properties. Here's the deal. I will pay you a minimum of $10,000 for any deal that you find and that you bring to me. Now, just hold on there for a second because many of you are sitting here thinking right now, how in the world can you pay them a minimum of $10,000? That's crazy. I would never make that offer. And that was why I would get the deals, because you wouldn't make that offer. You see, everyone else at the area would have a business card, and on their business card it might say something like they pay referrals of $250 or $500. Some of them might even put that they would pay $1,000. And I'm just going to ask you this. If somebody hands you their business card and they say that they'll pay you a referral of $500, would that excite you? Would you stop everything you're doing to go out and find the property for that person? What if it's $1,000? Would you stop what you're doing to go find them a property? Most of you would not do it. That doesn't excite you. But when I stood in front of the room and I told people that I paid a minimum of $10,000, I got everyone's attention. Everybody in the room was paying attention to me. Everyone in that room wanted to keep me in mind the next time they found a deal. Some people were stopping everything they were doing and going out just to find me deals because they knew that they would get a minimum of $10,000. Now, you're all probably thinking, how in the world can he do that? Well, I didn't buy the deals that didn't justify me paying $10,000. If somebody brought me a deal that I could wholesale quickly and make $30,000 on it, I would gladly pay them $10,000 to get that deal. I had no problem with doing it, so I got to cherry pick. I was the first call on everybody's list. Whenever somebody found the property, they called me first because I was willing to pay them more than anyone else. So I knew about everything that was going on in the market where everybody else was just getting the leftovers that I didn't take. I only cherry picked the best of the best properties. I did not take most of them. The majority of them I didn't do for a number of reasons. I just didn't want the deal, but didn't justify me paying $10,000. But when you get the first look at just about everything that's coming through, and you have 15, 20 people out there who are doing marketing, and they're putting out signs, and they got ads in the papers, and they're sending out letters, and they're making appointments and knocking on doors, and they're doing all of that work. I didn't have to do any of that. They're doing all of the work, and they get paid by me when they produce in a way that they find the property that I want to buy. It didn't cost me anything other than for the deal, and I got to pick and choose which deals I wanted to do. So I became, not only now was I helping them as they were doing this, I'm teaching them how to do it better. When they called me up and they had a deal and it didn't work for me, I would teach them how to make that deal better, or teach them how to go back and negotiate it to turn it into a better deal. I would tell them, if you can get it at this price, it will work for me. Why don't we, if you can go back and renegotiate it, then I'm willing to buy it from you. Now, I want to talk to you about this real quickly, because what about all those deals that I couldn't do with them? I was very upfront with them. I didn't say I'll pay you a minimum of $10,000 to try to negotiate a lower price so that I could buy it. That wasn't the way that I wanted to approach it. Again, remember, I shared with you about integrity. I wanted to keep my word. And so what I would tell them is I'd say, guys, listen, you got a pretty good deal right there. However, I can't buy it from you and pay you the $10,000. However, I do know of other people that might be interested in that property. If I could help move it to somebody else, would you be interested in me finding another buyer for you? You're probably not going to make the $10,000, but maybe you'll make 3 or 4. Would you be interested in that? They always said yes. They were happy to have me do that. And so I was happy to line them up with another investor that would probably buy that property for them. They would get their house sold, another person would get another deal, and both of those parties would be happy with me because I helped them get a deal done. I didn't ask anything for it, but most of the time they always treated me with something, whether it was a gift card to a restaurant or maybe send me a check for $500 or $1,000. I never ever mandated or stipulated that. But here is why I did that. Because they always then looked up to me. And the person who brought me that deal, if I just said no every time it didn't work for me, they would stop calling me. But because I said no, but I can still help you get that deal done, I stayed at the top of their list. They would still call me the next time. And so this was the reason why I kept on doing that. And I would help them to get their deals done. I would help them to be successful. And because I was helping them, they always wanted to help me. And they were constantly bringing their deals to me. So I would end up getting something like 3, 5, sometimes 6 or 7 calls a day from real estate investors that had deals. Now, these were real deals. This wasn't like a seller who is, calling you up based off of an ad that you have in the paper, and you got to dig through and find out, is this person even motivated? The investors had already done the work. They had already, these are the bird dogs, they've already been out there and they've spoken with the people. They've seen the house. They've determined the motivation. Now they're just trying to find out, is this something that I might be able to work with, and I could guide them a little bit. So once I changed my philosophy and I started breeding bird dogs, I'm now teaching them how to be more successful, and I had multiple people on the streets finding deals for me. I didn't have to do that anymore. They were doing the legwork. They were in different parts of town. Baltimore is a big city, so you got somebody working on the east side, you got somebody working on the west side, I got somebody working in downtown, somebody northeast, and somebody northwest, and all the different parts of town, people were developing their specialties in, and they were doing the legwork, and all I had to do was sit back and collect the phone calls from them. I would pay them their $10,000. The most I ever paid any one of those guys was $25,000. And I want to just share this deal with you real quickly and how it came about. But you would think, you're crazy, you paid them $25,000 finder's fee. Well, this was in a part of town that I like to invest in. And I had just bought a house for $140,000 on this one street. Now, this house that I bought for $140,000 was more than I would normally pay. But the only reason that I bought that house for $140,000 was because I already had a pretty good investor who told me he would give me $160,000 for it. So I went ahead and I tied up that house at $140,000. I probably would normally have only paid $120,000, but because I already had a buyer in place, I took it at $140,000 and sold it for $160,000. I get a phone call then from this other investor, and he says, Steve, I just tied up a house, and he told me the address, and it was on the exact same street. And he asked me, he said, Steve, how much will you give me for it? And I got to tell you, I got to correct my numbers because what I told you wasn't right. I bought the house for $140,000 and I sold it for $180,000, and you'll see where I was making that mistake here in just a moment. I sold it for $180,000, and this guy now tells me he has a house. He tells me the address, and I'm like, that's the same street that I just did that deal on. And so he is now telling me about the house, and I said, well, yeah, I'm interested. I said, how much do you want for it? He says, I don't know. What will you give me? I said, well, listen, here's the deal. I will definitely give you more than your $10,000 because he told me he had it under contract for $65,000. I just paid $140,000 for a house on the same street. I knew the neighborhood. They were all brick ranchers. Every single house on the street was. So I knew that this was another brick rancher, just like the house that I just did. And he had it under contract for $65,000. I paid $140,000 for the other one. I said, how much money do you want to make? He said, I don't know. And I said, look, tell me what you want to make. You're going to definitely make more than your $10,000 on this one. So then he said, would it be all right if I made $25,000 on it? I said, you got a deal. And so now here I am. I'm putting this house under contract for $90,000. His $65,000 plus the $25,000. I immediately called up the guys who just bought the other house from me, and I had asked them, I got another one. Would you be interested? And they agreed to give me the $180,000 for this house I just now had under contract for $90,000. So take this a step further. I could not get into this house. He couldn't get into the house, and they weren't going to let us get into the home until we actually bought it. But I was buying it so cheap, I did not care. So my buyers could never get into the house either, but they typically did gut rehabs, and they went on in, they redid the whole house, so paying me $180,000 for it wasn't that big of a deal for them. Finally, settlement comes around. I get to purchase the home, and now we can get into it for the first time. This was the worst house I had ever seen once we got into it. There was about 5 to 6 feet of water in the basement that had been in there for I don't know how many years. I'd never seen mold the way that I saw it in this house. The floors were spongy. The floor joists were just completely shot. Everything in this home was completely shot. And I walked in, I knew at what I bought it for that I was still in good shape, but I knew that these guys could not pay me the $180,000 for this house. And so I sat there and I asked these guys, they go through it and they just said to me, they said, Steve, we're sorry, we can't do this. We can't give you 180 for this house. It's going to take a lot more work. We got to take out all the floor joists. And they weren't intimidated by it. They were willing to do the work, but they needed to get paid for it. And so they said, we can't do it. We can't give you 180. And I just said, guys, look, I understand. I said, well, what can you do? And they said, well, let us take a moment to think about it. And they went off and they started talking. And then they came back to me and they said, Steve, we can only give you 160. Would you do that? And my response to them was, well, I got to think about it. I'll let you know. Now inside I was, doing a happy dance because that was one of my biggest profits. I shared with you that I've done 2 of them that I netted 65,000 on. This was one of them. And I called them up a little while later. I said, yeah, I thought about it. I think I can do 160. And so they ended up buying it from me for the 160. And after all my expenses were going in and out of it, I netted right at $65,000 on that house. But that came from a bird dog who made really good money. And because I was willing to pay the highest finder fees, he called me. He knew other investors. He could have called them, but I was the first person on everybody's list. If all the other people who said they were willing to pay 500 or 1,000, they were way down on his list. He wasn't going to call them first. And because of that, they missed out on a very profitable deal. So referral fees, that's the big thing. Just keep that in mind. Don't offer those little fees. It doesn't excite people. You can offer a big fee, and you can be confident in offering that because the only time you're going to pay it is when the deal makes sense. You're not going to pay somebody $10,000 for a deal that makes 5. You're going to pay them $10,000 for something that makes you quite a bit of money. You get to cherry pick and get the best of the best deals and leave the rest for everybody else. So teaching others and helping them to be successful, it's going to pay off for you in the long run. I have brought this point up over and over again throughout these sessions, but as you help others to succeed, they're going to be there for you. And again, breeding bird dogs puts multiple eyes on the street. You by yourself or as one person. There's only so many properties you can look at. There's only so many phone calls you can take. But when you have multiple people out there hitting the streets and bringing their deals to you, you can do 10 times, 15, 20 times as much as you can do by yourself by having a bunch of investors that are out there for you. So again, I just want to encourage all of you to just take the time, foster other people. Be willing to teach other people. Don't worry about them becoming your competition. Some of those people did become really good investors, but others were just very content with finding a deal here and there and collecting a check. Some of them became big investors, but even when they became big investors, they were still there. I was helping them and they were helping me. They came across deals that they just couldn't pull off on their own, and I was the person who they called when they needed that help. And so as I was building them up, they were going to become successful whether I helped them or not. And I remember there was an investor, and he said to me, he said, Steve, you need to stop training all the competition. This is hurting our business. Well, me building up more competition was actually hurting his business because he was keeping everything to the vest. He didn't want to work with anybody, but it was actually helping my business. And so the more people that I helped, the more I had willing to help me. And for him, it was literally taking something away from him, and he just did not believe in sharing anything at all. And he would get pretty upset with me and say, you're ruining this, you're ruining the whole business. But my business was getting better day by day as I was helping people. So just want to encourage you, this form of marketing ultimately became the #1 thing for me, and it's still what I focus on today. I just continue to help other people, and I let them bring the deals to me. And it serves me well. I don't spend a lot of time or a lot of money on marketing. When people call me up, they've already identified the real deals and they bring them to me. So at the end of this session, I'll see you again in another one.